Krishna Mohana Madhava Kesava Madhusudana Vana.
Okay, Haribo everybody, my name is Rasik, welcome to our channel. So we have an interesting story today. Also we have our new setup and we're doing our classes in the room now. Before we were in the temple room, but now we have a more intimate setting and we have our brahmacharis here for our class. And also we're going to start covering some more topical issues of the day that are related somehow to spirituality. So we won't talk so much about mundane news, but we can also give a bhakti perspective on things that are happening in the world to help interest new people also that aren't ready yet to dive into kind of deep Braja Bhakti, or just give more perspectives. So there's an interesting story that came out November 5th, 2019 in the Indian Express. Pharmacist leaves family for spirituality. Parents move to court. As our son, he is responsible for us. Okay, so in Ahmedabad, parents Leelabai and Bikiben filed a case against their son. Their son joined ISKCON. His name, here we can see his picture. His name before was Dharmesh Gol. So he joined the ISKCON temple, and then the parents began harassing him to come home, traveling back and forth, finding him wherever he went. Sometimes he was in Mayapur, sometimes he was in Vrindavan or in Bombay. So his father and mother went to find him and try to get him to return. They're saying 8 lakhs back and forth trying to get him. He did a FIR case in the police office saying that they were torturing him emotionally and mentally, physically since childhood. So he's saying that's one of the reasons that he left home. It was kind of part of the causation of it. The father said, however, that I spent 4 lakhs to put him through this very expensive university called Naipur. So anyhow, the court ruled that he must pay 10,000 a month to his parents. So this actually goes along with a previous bill, also in the Indian Express. This is from May 12th, 2018, where it's a senior citizen draft bill. It says the government proposes 6-month jail time for abandoning or abusing elderly parents. So it seems interlinked because they're both in, I believe they're both originating in Ahmedabad. And it's also giving this idea that the children have to pay 10,000 rupees a month minimum for their elderly parents. And it expanded the law to include daughters-in-law, son-in-law, and also adopted stepchildren. So it's not only biological children. So this is the idea in the Indian court now, that if you leave your parents and they're saying that we're aged, we don't have enough money to maintain ourselves, then you are required to pay for their maintenance. It doesn't matter if you become a sadhu. So there's interesting kind of ideas surrounding this. One is, what is the perspective of our sastra? That's what we're mostly interested in. Bhagavatam has a famous verse. You may know it. Any of you know it, they get extra points. Devarshi bhutapjininam pitrinam nakinkaronayam rinicharajan sarvatmanaya sharanyam gato mukunda parihritya kartam. So this verse is almost specifically designed for this case. Obviously not designed for this case, but the idea in general is that, we leave family, we're in search of God. The idea is that if you want to wholesale surrender in this quest to finding self-realization and finding God, your relationship with God, serving Him, self-surrender, then you don't have time for other engagements, for going and working in a job to maintain them, right? You don't have time for that. So what are you going to do? It's not like you can do an 8-hour job and then 10 hours of the day do your meditation. If you want to be completely sold into the service of God, where's the time for mundane work? How are you going to maintain your family then? So the Sastra Bhagavatam says that not only are you not indebted to your parents, but you're not indebted to the devas, the demigods, to society, to anything or anyone. That you're completely relinquished from all debts if you sarvatmana sharanyam. It means completely, sarvatmana, not partially. Sarvatmana sharanyam. If you completely surrender, gato mukunda parihritya to Mukunda, Krishna, then you're completely dissolved of all debts. They use the word Mukunda, which is very important because Mukunda is a name of Krishna signifying he who gives mukti. Mukti dadati iti Mukunda. He who gives liberation is Mukunda. And once you surrender completely, Sarvatmana Sharanyam, not some kind of false surrender. Once you surrender completely, you're absolved of all debts. So this is an important thing here. You're told to be in the Achyuta Gotra. Gotra means your family line. So you're in the Bharadwaj Gotra or any other Gotra. But when you completely surrender to Krishna, you're in the Achyuta Gotra. It means you're in the family of Krishna, the family of God. And you're serving Krishna, then you don't have any debts to anything lower, because Krishna is Advaya Gyan Pratattva. Everything is included within Krishna. By serving Krishna, everything is satisfied. Yasmin tuste, jagat tuste. If Hari is pleased, everyone is pleased. There's the example given also in the Sastra, the Yatataror Mula Nishetanena. If you water the roots of the tree, then all the leaves and branches are nourished. But if you try to just water the individual leaves, the tree will wither and die. So serving Krishna directly is described to be like watering the roots of the tree, then everyone is taken care of. But then the parents can say, well, if he's serving Krishna directly, why aren't we externally being nourished? So this story is an interesting case. In this case particularly, the parents receive a pension. And he's saying that, oh, I spent so much money going back and forth looking for my son. So I've spent, and I have many EMI payments, monthly installments, so I don't really have enough to maintain myself, so he should pay for me. So, I mean, there's two sides to every story. This article is mostly giving, I guess they're trying to give a neutral report on the news, the fact that the court is saying that he has to pay this. And previously there was a bill passed, the Senior Citizen Draft Bill, which if you are not taking care of your parents, you can even be given jail time. So in an ordinary case, in the West, we see that parents are put in old folks' homes and the state really more or less pays for them. That's the whole idea of Social Security, right? Your whole life, you're paying taxes to the government. A certain amount of that tax, in theory, is going to your Social Security. When you're retired, then you'll get a pension. But if you don't work also, then you won't be getting that same kind of pension. They have that in India also, because he's saying here, oh, I'm getting some kind of pension. But he's saying it's not enough, right? Now, if someone is an ordinary householder and they've left and abandoned their parents, then my feeling is that there should be different ways of following through on this court order according to the particular case, the individual case. If someone is really a fully engaged sadhu serving a religious mission, then are they required to pay every month to their parents? It seems kind of crazy to say that, oh, you join an ashram and then your parents go to court and then you have to be paying for them, or you'll go to jail for 6 months. It seems a bit extreme for a dharmic, so-called, dharmic nation. Or, also then you have the Varnashram system. The Varnashram system is that, you can progress through different stages of life and you can become a brahmachari or a sannyasi. Sannyasis also are beyond the, material social responsibilities. They've completely renounced. There's a few interesting stories we'll tell and then we'll finish up. So one story that's interesting is the story of this sage who was out in the forest for a long time doing austerities, and he would go and beg alms. So one day he was doing austerities underneath a tree, and as he was sitting there under the tree, some bird that was sitting in the tree passed a stool and it hit his head. And he looked up with great anger and with red eyes, and the bird burnt to ash. And so the power of his tapasya, austerities, was so great that he burnt the bird to ash by his anger. So then he became a bit puffed up, thinking, wow, now I'm pretty powerful. So then later he went to beg alms, and he went to one house and knocked on the door, and a lady came out and she offered him, he said, oh, give me some alms, I'm hungry. So she said, okay, I'll go get it. But as she went back into the kitchen to get it, her husband returned home. And so the first duty of the wife is serving the husband. So she immediately began to welcome the husband, serve him, and feed him. And he was becoming, outside, the sage was becoming restless, like, why isn't she serving me first? So she came back out after a while and said, oh, I had to serve my husband. And he was very angry, and he started to look at her with red eyes. And so she said, oh, don't think you can burn me to ash like you burnt that bird to ash. So he was very astonished, and he thought for a minute, and then he said, well, how did you know that? And she said, oh, see, by the power of my service to my husband, to my family, and by my chastity, I've become aware of such things. And you left your parents in their old age. So he said to this sadhu, you were young and you left, and your parents are suffering so much. So you should go and serve them and return home, and then only later become a sadhu. It's a very long story that goes on long after that. It's a very interesting story, actually. It's in one of our Puranas. So the idea is that Sastra sometimes will say, no, why are you giving pain to your parents and prematurely becoming a monk? So this example in the Puranas is showing towards the side of serving the parents. But, even though the lady told him to do this, it wasn't like if he didn't go, then they're going to put him in jail. It seems a bit draconian to say that if you become a sadhu and then you don't pay for your parents, what if you're doing tapasya in the Himalayas? Or what if you're, we have so many examples, brahmacharis in our temple. We have how many? 50 brahmacharis in our temple, and they're serving throughout the day and also performing sadhana, chanting, doing kirtan, hearing Harikatha, going on parikrama, serving the Dambasis, serving the Brijbasis prasadam. We're not getting money for it. So if you were to say, all these boys here who are in saffron and they're serving all day long or chanting or doing sadhana, and the parents go to court and say, they're not maintaining us, where are they going to get money from? They're not getting a wage salary. In our Radhakund specifically, it's like so many people are serving, they're not getting any salary, and they don't have extra time to go and get a job and make money. So how are they going to pay for their parents? So that's why I think an individual approach is best, But anyhow, this court order seems very, very extreme. I don't think that would ever pass in the West. So there's a few other stories quickly. One story is of a father, actually. Puruji and Gurudev tell this story. There was a father who had a friend who became a sadhu. There were two gentlemen, and when they became in their 50s, they were thinking, now it's time for vanaprastha, sannyasa, the retired ashram. I should become a devotee, full-fledged, engaged in bhakti. So this one man, he became a sadhu, and his friend was still engaged in household life, but he was retired that time. So his friend would occasionally visit him, the sadhu. He lived in an ashram nearby, and he would occasionally visit his friend and say to him, you should also join me and do bhajan in the ashram. He said, no, I'm still here with my family this night. He said, you shouldn't trust this situation. That families in general, they will respect and serve you as long as you're able to provide for them. It's all about who's the provider, who's going to maintain everybody, who's going to pay for everything. So sometime later, this other man who was in the house, he became ill. He became sick, and the daughter-in-law, she told her husband and the wife, the mother, that, our little babies will get sick, our children will get sick by this, your father, we should put him in the basement. So they put him in this little room in the basement, and they said, we'll take care of you nicely, but they soon began to neglect him. He became very sick. He had a bad fever. They weren't giving him food properly, or they would give him food and they would leave it there, whatever he didn't take, spoiled, rotting, flies and bugs and mosquitoes were there. So finally one day the sadhu came to meet him, and he said, where is this man? He said, he's in the basement. So he went to see him. He said, just see how they are loving and caring for you now, that you are not able to provide for them, that you're a little bit sick. So you should not be allured by the false charm of family life now. Instead, you should come with me and retire. We'll care for you in the ashram. You'll become healthy. You can serve there. You shouldn't be depending on your family in this situation. You should come and serve the Lord. The Lord will take care of you. He is akinchana gocharam. He maintains all the destitute, and he is obtained easily by those who are destitute. So he said, no. He didn't want to leave. So then the sadhu told him something. I'll give you some coins, some like gold coins. Or if he said, whatever money you have left, collect it and get some gold coins. And when your daughter-in-law is coming into the room, when you hear them coming down to the basement, down the steps, you should shake these and then pour them out on your bed in front of you. And as they walk into the room, quickly collect them and hide them under your cloth. So he said, and I'll come back in a few weeks and see how it's going. So when he started doing like this, the daughter-in-law would come with his food, and he would start shaking this bag, like his japa bag, full of coins, and he would spread them out in front of him. And as he entered the room, he would quickly show like he was in the middle of counting them, and then he would cover them with his cloth. And he did this like this for a few days, and then very soon after that, they started serving him very nicely, wiping his, caring for him, having someone put a cool cloth in his head, bringing him medicine, bringing expensive doctors. Why? Because of the attachment to the money. So in this world, wealth is very difficult to acquire in this world, and people are very attached to it. And where kanaka kamini pratishta bhagini, these gold, wealth, women, prestige, in this world, it's the binding force keeping everyone stuck in samsara, material life, and suffering in this material existence, the cycle of birth and death. So the friend of the sadhu came back and told him, you see, they were just attached to your wealth. So hearing that, then he decided to go and join the ashram. So this is the case for an older man. There's one other short story, similar story. The father's at home. He wants to join the ashram. But he told his son, now I'm old. I'm like in my 50s, 60s. I want to join the ashram. The son was saying, okay, we'll give you some help. You can go. But then, again, the daughter-in-law, another daughter-in-law story, she heard that he was leaving and she began to chastise her son in the room that night. Like her husband, sorry. The wife, who is the daughter-in-law of the father, she began to chastise her husband that, why are you letting your father leave? He can still do many chores for us. He can still look after many things. Let's keep him here. So they built him a room on the roof. They told him, you stay on the roof. We'll give you the Gita, Bhagavat, Tulsi, do bhajan. And we'll keep you very nicely maintained. You can do bhajan here. So the daughter-in-law was very tricky, that if the father was gone, they would have to hire some kind of babysitter. So he's saying, if he's on the roof, then we can keep the baby out there in the sun. He can play and he can look after them. And what they did when he was out there, they gave him a chair outside. Have you heard this story before? So they gave him a chair and they say, chant your japa outside, read your Bhagavat. And what they do in India is they boil potatoes like 50, 60% and then slice them and then lay them out on some like clean roof and let them dry. And then they have like potato chips, or they have, so they can easily boil them and make some sabji in the winter if they don't have veggies or something. So they would lay these all out and then he would have to sit and watch over these so monkeys wouldn't come and take them. So the daughter-in-law, her only idea was to keep him at home, and in the pretense of helping him do bhajan, just make him like a servant. So he's saying, if he left, we'd have to pay so much for his maintenance. So and just a different kind of anecdote given by Vaishnavas. So there's obviously many different sides to this. We shouldn't say that it's some kind of selfless desire on all parties. We don't know, where the blame really lies. But we know the precedent. Mahaprabhu, in some cases we see our acharyas, they leave their family. Our Gurudev specifically, he had 2 daughters. He left home and joined the mission of Param Gurudev. Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj left his young wife and parents. Also with Mahaprabhu in South India, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he wanted to join Mahaprabhu. After Mahaprabhu stayed for 4 months in South India, that Gopal Bhatta Goswami was just a boy and he wanted to join Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu told him, no, stay at home and serve your parents. When they leave, or when they leave this world after you've served them nicely, then you can come join. And he also told Raghunath Das Goswami, Gare jao na hao batul. Don't become like a madman, externally renouncing everything when you're not ready yet. But when you're ready, you can leave everything. And sometime later, after he received the blessing of Nityananda Prabhu, Raghunath also left home, when real pure renunciation came in his heart. So if there's a pure desire to completely leave everything and serve God, then nothing can hold you back. But family can be a positive influence in your spiritual life, but it can also be a negative influence. With the case of Mirabai, her family even tried to kill her and poison her rather than letting her go and do bhajan. Rather than letting her go and be like a completely in rapture of love for God, then they tried to kill her and poison her. But the Lord protected her. We see similar case with Prahlad. So family it's based on that basic idea is that in material life things are based on selfishness. Gurudev mentions that Hiranyakashipu had so much love for Prahlad. Prahlad was the apple of his eye. He was his heir apparent. He was going to be the next ruler after him. But as soon as Prahlad went against his desire and began worshipping the Lord, Vishnu, then his father tried to kill him in so many different ways and hurt him, but he could not. So this is one thing we hear from Vaishnavas a lot, that, Prabhupada likes to say many times, friend means fry end. And children means chili drain. Dad means dead. Mom means mummy. So Prabhupada kind of gives this Nivritti Marg perspective of the sadhu, which is that ultimately in this world, everything is based on selfishness. It's very difficult to find pure love. If some person is trying to escape material life and go to God, then everyone in society who is attached to material life, they'll see, why are you trying to go beyond us? They'll drag them back down. The story is given of crabs. If you have crabs stuck in a net and one crab is about to escape the net and he's just about to get out, then the other crabs will pull his legs back down into the net. So this is one idea. We see generally in India, when anyone tries to leave home and join an ashram or serve Bhagavan, the family will go do all kinds of ends to get them back. Even with Gurudev's story, it was very difficult for Gurudev to come. Again and again, they would surround the whole mat and threaten with torches on fire that, if you don't return him, we'll burn down your ashram. It's very difficult, especially in India. In the West, we have more of a conception of like, you're 18, you can do anything you want. In America, you're 18, you're an adult, you can leave and do anything you want. But in India, the family unit is very strong, and that's positive. We know we should serve your mother and father, honor thy mother and thy father. But that's the idea of Vanashram. And ultimately, Mahaprabhu said, Eta sabcharya Vanashram dharma kinchan loy krishnai kasharan. Give up everything and just one pointedly take shelter of Lord Krishna. And then you don't have to worry about anything. So many other things we can talk about, but I mean, what's your opinion? So anyhow, for everyone watching, if you have, please in the comments let us know what you think. Any ideas? Also, any ideas for other videos?